January 26th, 2026 is National Spouses Day. So today we're talking about what it's like to be the spouse of a Christian school administrator.
This episode of the Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. And as always, the thoughts and opinions expressed within this episode are those of your hosts, not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll. I got a new mic, got a new outlook on life. I'm ready to go. Okay, not a new outlook on life, but I am ready to go because every so often something breaks, something falls apart, and you're like, what's going on? Why is life so difficult? Let's stop this. No, okay, I don't spiral that much, but we are interested in making the product as awesome for you, our listener, as possible. And tonight we're talking about our spouses. We're talking about specifically about how we have seen them be supportive spouses in the role of the wife of a Christian school administrator. Now, maybe there's wives who are the administrators, those husbands out there, and of course, vice versa, what we're representing. We're going to talk about what administrative spouses deal with, who they are, what it's like today on National Spouses Day. Matt, good to have you tonight, by the way. I'm just glad you're here and
to be here.
Not down with the flu or anything. That would be bad.
Amen. Glory, hallelujah. Thank goodness.
There's a lot of that going around right now.
Oh,
it's not pretty.
It has been something else, yeah. And I've even dodged it within my own home, but I've dodged it up to this point. However, what I did not dodged is the little nail that was sticking out of a board and put right through my heel the other night. That was fun.
This does not feel good.
Walking a little softer these days.
You better knock on that guitar behind you because it's only a matter of time until you find that one germ that was left over from all the Lysol. I'm sure you guys did.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But we're talking about administrative spouses again this evening. And I want to give a shout out to my wife right now, who happens to be in the great country. I don't know if it's a great country, but I'm sure it is. I just don't know how great of a country it is.
Let's just assume it's a good country.
They have a canal. She's down there in Panama, and she is with Operation Renewed Hope, which some of you may have some experience with, and she's been in Panama now for 2 days. Tomorrow is a big orientation day before she puts those nurse practitioner skills to good. I mean, at least she's doing something, right? Like, she's not just letting those skills go to rot, but she's putting those nurse practitioner skills to work upcoming tomorrow through Friday in a clinic there. All to the praise of his glory and for the furtherance of the gospel, because Operation Renewed Hope, they provide, of course, physical and then gospel-minded help to those people they come into contact with. And she was able to travel with them when she was in college. So this is a second time around for her. First time going as a practitioner rather than a student.
As the pro.
Yeah, as the one. She said it's a group of like 36 people from the States that winds up being 50 by the time they get there, with the different translators and Panamanian. I tell you that. I mean, it's cool to be an American. It's pretty cool to be a Panamanian, you know? That'd be like Tasmanian. But anyway.
Panamania.
I have Panamania as a Panamanian. But we're going to talk about our spouses. Before we do that, let's go ahead and hear from our partners in this venture. And I'm going to start us with the Herzog Foundation. We are so thankful for the Herzog Foundation.
It's already done.
What we're specifically thankful for is the leadership series happening on board development right now as this is posted, January 25th to the 28th down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Maybe one of you is listening to this podcast and you're hearing yourself get shout out right now. That's pretty prime, as the kids say. Next up, there's a parent engagement one, which is actually also going on right now. And that one happens to be in Fort Worth, Texas. So as you can hear, as you can see, there's already things going on live unto us with what we're doing. Next up, though, if you're looking ahead, and technically these are still upcoming, so it may not be too late for you to jump in. There is a Classroom Management Solutions for Teachers virtual coming up on the 27th, which is tomorrow. Crisis Management, Cultivating Top Talent, Marketing and Enrollment. The marketing and enrollment one's probably the first one coming out that maybe you still could slip into. I want to go down to Gulf Shore sometime. Never been down to the shores of Alabama.
No, I haven't got that far.
Yeah, down the Gulf of America now, right? Got to get down there. So Find yourself one of these, take advantage of one of these, and enjoy one of these. Because remember, at the Herzog Foundation, if you get yourself there, they're going to pay for the rest of it, and they're going to make it nice. Make it nice for you. Matt, let's talk about the GradeLink student information systems now.
Yeah, we mentioned about one of those workshops being parent engagement, and GradeLink is really good about making sure communication is clear from the school to the home. And there are multiple ways through their Smart Send system, email, text message, or voice message. Lots of options there at GradeLink. So if you're still looking for a wonderful system to use, head over to GradeLink at cpp.gradelink.com so that they know the boys here at the Christian Principles Podcast sent you over.
From the boys. Listen, I tell you, I was with Miss Sherry Ridings of Chesapeake Christian Academy last Wednesday, and I was speaking with her and asked her what SIS she used. She uses GradeLink, so it was good to hear. We got a friend in the biz. All right. Cracking down now to our spouses, and let's pause, of course, and just thank God for the amazing women who have chosen to put up with us for the rest of our earthly days until this mortal coil stops whatever you want to say. Like, they're stuck with me, and I'm very thankful for it, because I don't know about you, but I married up for sure, and thankful for it. So I'm thankful for Andrea, her work as a nurse practitioner, her letting me be a trophy husband. What a blessing that is. And then just, being the awesome mom that she is, and other things, of course, being Christ-like woman, the biblical woman, I'd say choir leader, but I'm in. If she wasn't the choir leader, I don't know if I'd still be in choir. It's not arm twisting, but it's like, but it is nice to, when I'm able to go and the kids aren't sick, or we don't have somebody watch the kids or whatnot. It is nice to be next to you and sing the choir, Matt.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. You say all these things about Andrea, and I'm like, Jenny's pretty great. I'm not half as good at flattery as you are. So, but
can you see the
Jenny,
lies?
She's more than I could ever say as being so important to me as well. But we have different experiences with our spouses as
absolutely,
as we being administrators.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hit on that because for those of you that are listening, I think it is a rather common thing within Christian education for administrators or principals to have their spouses involved in the ministry in some way. I feel like that's fairly common.
Yeah, more common than not. But I definitely say more common than not. Yeah,
probably. Yeah, but then you obviously are married to the professional from the outside that gets to touch that real world, gets outside the bubble.
Outside the bubble.
I hate
the bubble language.
Hate the bubble.
We've talked about that.
Bubble. Absolutely. We're gonna have to burst that bubble at some point.
We're gonna talk. I'm writing it down right now. Talk about the
burst
bubble,
the bubble
on the next. Yeah, axe the bubble language.
Get rid of it.
Axe the bubble language. Wrote it down. We'll do it next. It's amazing.
But at the same time, while my wife currently is full-time employed at the school, we've experienced the time where our kids were being born and she wasn't full-time, she was just full-time at home. So we've got a little bit of that, all the different blends. You've got the spouse full-time at home, full-time in the ministry with you, or just full-time in their own occupation. So we're gonna kind of hit all those different notes as to what it was like to be married during those times.
I was always an amazing husband. Let's just leave that there. That's for everybody to know. It was never a problem with me, for sure. Okay, I'll start. So as Matt noted, he has had time with Jenny at home. They're in the ministry part-time and full-time. Andrea has never been a part of, and it starts before the ministry, though. It starts before, I want to say, I would say that carefully. It starts before my professional life as a head of school, as an administrator. In our daily interactions, Andrea does not take on my hobbies. And there are wives that do. There are absolutely wives who they almost, I imagine if it's golf, it probably is self-sacrificial to some extent if they didn't grow up with it. But like they will start golfing with their husbands and they will start doing whatever else. They'll become the softball wives or whatever it happens to be out there. That's just so far removed from who Andrea was. Like I enjoyed playing softball for the church and then for the county, and I stopped because I was spending significant time away from the house. And there was an issue for me. Like, if you're gonna say the game starts at 6, it can't start at 8:30. That's gonna drive me up a wall. I'm gonna plan up to like 5:55 and at 7:05 to have other things done. And I can't have that happen. And it was happening far too often. And so it was annoying me. I know it was killing her, but she was trying to be nice about it. But she was not out there watching me play softball. Like, she had her own book to read or whatever else to go on, even before we had kids. So that's just not who she is. And she's one of these idiots that's known since they were in undergrad exactly what God wanted them. Actually, she knew she was like in junior high what it is that God wanted her to do with her life. And I envy those people. I still don't know what God wants me to do with my life besides what He's put me in at this moment, and that is no exaggeration. But she's known she wanted to be a nurse, and it was then later developed in undergraduate and once she got in the professional sphere that she was going to be a nurse practitioner. And she would work for as few hours as possible to make the most money possible to get back home as soon as possible. And that's life for her. And it's a different way of approaching the professional sphere than I have ever prior. And it's definitely not one that she has her professional life. And I would make this joke when I was first administrator, because there was a time, just if you don't know by this point, and not that you would, we don't talk about our wives terribly often necessarily, but Andrea is our church's choir director, and she is often a special music provider, either by vocal or violin or piano, which is her main instrument. And in high school and then later, she was often an accompanist if she wasn't doing some sort of solo. And I knew from day one that if I would have volunteered her to come in at any time of the week and to be an accompanist, just saying that she would, I mean, I wouldn't be like dead when I got home, but she would just laugh and be like, I'm not doing that. Or she like, you never checked with me. So unless there's somebody else named Andrea out there, like that's, your yes does not mean my yes. And so that's that. But I never got into that because I knew I entered the position knowing that's who she was. That's where we were. And if there was an opportunity, we've had the, when we had our sex education podcast, she was noted to be the one who came on and with planning provided that. She has pretty much annually come into a pre-K or a K-5 classroom and have the discussion of like, hey, I'm a primary care provider. When you come in, I'm going to take your temperature. I'm going to do this, or you're going to have this happen to you. And here's a stethoscope and that sort of thing. So she's involved, and even more so now as a mom to some extent. But I knew that in my professional life, she was not going to be there if I needed a sub that day. The kids wouldn't want her either. Let's be very sure about that. To some extent, unless they were looking for great stories of the grotesque, they would not necessarily want Andrea to be there. So, and I think I'm saying all this fairly when she listens. If she listens to this, she will say something along those lines. So that's my faculty and staff also, in some ways, they had to come to understand that about her in both of my installments, because there were absolutely times like, well, why don't you just ask? And I would roll my eyes, because that's not how that was going to play out. It was going to play out very differently. In fact, I started down this, I didn't finish it, but there was one very specific time when in my first couple of years, that back to that accompanist thing, it was basically assumed that when I saw we were going to have an accompanist issue, that I was just going to take care of it. And when it didn't come through for like the rehearsal, and I'm looking around and then I get the question, I'm like, don't ever do that again, because that's not on me. That's on you for thinking that I would just take care of this with somebody that's not my field. That's your field, buddy. So anyway, there's a side of it. Matt, give us another side of it. If you would say, and not to think that there's some great, the contrast is negative. We're not trying to present it that way in any way. No. This is real life.
No, we're just,
this is not a bubble. This is real life, folks.
We're just comparing wives, and We'll let you
Nothing-
decide who's the better one.
Nothing can go wrong with this. Nothing can go wrong with this today. This content will be amazing.
Yeah. So with
I'm glad she's in
Jenny
Panama right now.
oh my goodness. I'm kind of worried more for you than I am for myself. But for Jenny, again, it's not a comparison. I'm trying not to compare at all because that's not what we set about to do in this.
Mm-mm.
But Jenny and I, we see things so similarly, and our interests are similar. Now, granted, you brought up the golf thing. I've been golfing with Jenny a couple of times, and it only needs to be a couple of times. I love her dearly, but she's also okay with not being a super golfer. But anyway,
Sure.
But most of the time, like if we're going to go out and we're going to play tennis or we're going to go play basketball, like she is doing it with me. If we're going to go, play pig in the basketball, I can guarantee you she's going to beat me. Like it's just, we always love doing things together. We, from the beginning of our marriage knew that ministry was something we were going to do together. In what respect? Because she wasn't in education. She wasn't, she's, one of those humanities people. I'm just going to study life, be ready for life.
We'll be ready for anything, I think is what you mean to say. They will be so diverse and ready to go. That's how it was sold to me anyway.
And in other words, she didn't know what she was going to do with her life.
No idea what was going on, but I can tell you about Shakespeare for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's like she focuses on writing, and how often does she actually write? Like, never mind. Let's get into another topic. And she will listen to this, and I know I'm going to get an earful. But no. So that's it. You mentioned like if I'm going to be out for the day, am I going to call on her to sub? Absolutely, I'm calling on her to sub. She was my go-to, and the kids were praying that I would be out for the day because she was going to come in and do it. So,
see, exactly.
That's. We're not comparing, but it is the other side of it. It's the flip side. It's the different approach. I mean, we started as teachers together at Faith, and then she started having children, and I became an administrator. But then you also have she's the volleyball coach, and so during the fall season, I am administrator and instantly full-time dad. So. There's that. I'm basketball coach, but thankfully, as she is my athletic director, I pull her along and she's assisting me because I'm not doing this by myself. We've got a lot of that involvement, and I'm thankful we can do that together as much as we possibly can. I'm not going along with her for volleyball, although I love going to volleyball practice and putting some spikes down on the girls.
Try
not
to
break any noses or anything. Yeah, so there's that different, and even it's frustrating now because she's in a full-time position to where if I need a sub, I can't use her anymore. I have to actually go find somebody else. It's so annoying. But I guess where I'll really dig into kind of my first thing that I wanted to bring up about how spouses can be that support, and something that, especially since I've become an administrator, that she's really tried to understand and figure out for me is at what point can she be like, tell me more so I can support you, or you don't want to talk about it. We're not going to talk about this. Like there are so many things that's like, I don't want to just constantly be unloading onto her, even though she wants to be that support. And especially when she is working at the school, there's obviously things that as an employee, I shouldn't be talking to her about because, she's going to, not that she's a blabbermouth, but, she could. So confidentiality things have been a kind of a struggle or a balance to figure out. And, we've kind of come up with this code, so to speak, of, hey, what's going on? Can't tell you. Okay, moving on. But I know that's something that she has really struggled with, to try to be supportive of me without, being nosy, without trying to get the details, the juicy details, just to be there and know that she's there for me, even though I can't talk about things.
It's a beautiful thing that you've developed that understanding. There's a line. I'm gonna get right up to it. I might even ask you if you run across it today, because I'm in this with you. You know, with or without this ministry, I'm in this with you. So, but I can also back off when I need to. And that has to be something that all administrative spouses develop. They're going to have to. And as a young administrator, I absolutely fell on the wrong side of that and just spilling my guts on everything to her, which became problematic because when you have a type A, like she is a type A, it could become her reaching out and saying something to somebody if she knew something that she shouldn't have known or should. So there absolutely was a time when I had to walk through those apologies and things like that. Having that person in your corner is such a big deal. I was gonna say it may very well be prosaic, commonplace, stereotypical, but her strongest support of me was always having my back. We would mostly expect that from a spouse. Hopefully we can expect that from a spouse. Definitely meant a lot more to me as I continued on in my professional life, and especially when things like pay discrepancy between herself and myself, or time spent on task between herself and myself came into view, or like you said, me needing to step into a role that necessarily wasn't in the job description, but it had to be done. I couldn't delegate it out, like our previous episode talked about. All those things, knowing that she had my back, but then her and this is something that she's definitely grown in, and she would say she's grown in. I think she would. Those affirmations of me as a father, husband, man, lover, provider, carpenter, whatever, sportsman, whatever it happens to be. Those things that I see it on reels now. There's a guy who's sitting at the table and she comes up and just, gives him a kiss or says, "Good job." And his chest puffs out, and you see this picture of a bald eagle taking off, or like nitrous shooting out of the back of a dragster, all kinds of stuff like going on. High emotion, high time. He could run through a wall. It's a Super Bowl victory win kind of thing. Like all these images flash across the screen because that's how it makes you feel. I believe she has come to understand that now. In a way, I suppose many relationships go through this sort of thing, but she's come to understand now just how meaningful one of those comments is from her. That when I came back wanting to, light somebody up, her meaningful affirmation, far removed from that situation, but just of me, or telling me it was going to be okay, or telling me, you are in the ministry, we're called not to worry. If the Bible says, "How beautiful is the flower that he clothes, how much more so is he going to care for us? If he knows the sparrow that falls, how much more so is he going to care for us?" She was never in that same headspace of me thinking about the amount of money that was coming in from my role. In fact, when I first started teaching, she made a point to tell me my paycheck paid for, like, I think it was like an electric bill or something like that. She made a point because she's the one who has kept, since we first got married, I started with the bills, and she got annoyed really fast because I'm like to the penny, and she's very much of a rounder, or like, I know we have this, this is, so she's taking care of it, and that's fine. I'm secure myself. It's okay. But she made a point early on of saying like, "Oh, check this out. Your paycheck was X and our electric bill was X. That's awesome." And it wasn't. And in the moment, I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." Years later, I look back, and she reminded me of that, not in a mean way, but we were talking about what I had made when I first started at a small Christian school. And I just started laughing because I realized what she had done. She had gone out of her way to match up my paltry paycheck with one of our bills that would not have kept us in that house, at all.
Or the only thing you had.
Exactly. Like if we were stripped down to the bare essentials, that's what we could. But she did that, and I'm thankful for it. And I didn't realize how meaningful those things were, and I don't think she realized it until here we are years later in our relationship. And so I am thankful for those affirmations. And it sounds stereotypical, and it's easy to say, but I'm gonna take the easy one tonight and say that always has been. Money will always be a thing for Christian schools. Even the big ones. Money is always going to be a thing for us. Her willingness to say, God's called you to be in that ministry, and that's good enough, and we're going to, the rest is going to figure itself out. Not everybody's going to say that. And I'm thankful that she did. as part of what it would, if we're stepping away from that, like the strengths of our respective lives and moving into things that we would just say, if you're looking to get married and you're in this role and you're looking to get married, or for whatever situation, you would want to, test out a spouse, or maybe you want to ask your spouse about how they're feeling as the role of a Christian school administrator. I would say something that they should be prepared for is an irregular time coming home. This is not a punch in, punch out, because it's also going to be an irregular time leaving. And there should be seasons where you should make it regular. Like summertime, make that thing regular. And as much as possible, when Matt's not coaching basketball, make that thing regular as much as you can. But there's going to be times when it's like, well, I got that phone call and the water's gone, so I guess I got to go figure out the water tomorrow. And there's no overtime. Right. So it's salary. So it's going to happen. So there's going to be a need for him to be aware of that, to be okay with that, or you're going to need to walk through how to make him okay with that. Or this isn't going to work out, because it's not a punch in, punch out. It's going to be on the clock more, and it's more on you, the administrator, to figure out where those no-fly zones are, as Mark Minkus told us about previously. So check out that episode if you haven't before. But Matt, what else can you think of National Spouses Day? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So along with that, our alma mater had a saying of life is ministry. And that's, I just want to add to that, that's what when we got married, we totally agreed that, what, our life is not ours, it's God's. So whatever he calls us into, and that's the other thing. Like I never have sought after a job. I have never pursued a position. It's just as the doors that God has opened for our family, we're just following. And so we kind of approach life that way. And I guess on the other side of it, you mentioned the affirmations, which is no small thing. Like that is huge, because as I'll say to the spouse of the administrator, regardless of where you're at, just assume they need that, just automatically assume. Don't, if I were to, Jenny, I know you're listening, and this is one of my things, but when I come home and you are pressing me for how was your day, like, no, no, because even if it's a good day, like there's just certain things that you don't just rehash in your mind. You just move on to the next. It was a good one. Let's move on, but, but rather, than just, how was your day? That quick, just, hey, great job today. You did something important, and that's all that matters. That's big. But then I'll also say this, and this is kind of on the side that we don't necessarily want, but I love that my wife is willing to do this, and I know your wife is willing to do this, is when you're wrong, don't sugarcoat it. Just say, you know what? You need to think about this, because I don't think you're right. You're wrong. You need to fix this. I do appreciate that. And, pushing me to be the best version of myself. That is something that a spouse needs to be. You're the best cheerleader, but at the same time, you're the coach. You're the You're the teammate that is, you're working on this together. So, you need to be there for each other in both affirming, "Hey, you're doing a great job. That meal was delicious. You paid those bills on time. Way to go."
Way to
All
go.
those things. But at the same time, like, "Hey, you really need to work on this because that's going to help you in the long run. It's going to help us in the long run. It's going to help our family. It's going to help the ministry, whatever it may be." So just the willingness to stand up and be like, "You know what? You need to work on this." And and something I have to be willing to do is accept it and say, "Yes, I do need to work on that." But hearing it from that person is the most important thing. If Mark, if you tell me I need to work on these things, I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." But to hear it from her is important. That
Sure.
I need that smack upside the head every once in a while.
Mm. That father-in-law smack upside the head, but in this case, a
Yeah,
wife,
the wife. Yeah.
Jethro. So we've talked about the obvious affirmation. We've talked about the to take the time to tell us no, or when something's going wrong, or when we should just be leaving and we need to realize we should be leaving for something. You missed your kid's birthday, get back. No, you can't plan on that night. I don't care. There's a board meeting that night. You won't be there for it. Oh, that's right. I guess I should be home for the. That might have been personal. Um, uh, Another obvious thing to point out, we're well over our time because we're talking about our wives, which is beautiful, but it is very meaningful to hear that she's prayed for me. And of course, it's kind of like when your mom prays for you, you just think that that sweet smelling savor is a different sort of smell and it means something. It's like smelling salts for us. And for him, it's, hopefully just as beautiful. But that means something. And I know there's more, there are far more deep caverns to mine when it comes to what our wives or your spouse offers you. So tell us about them. Leave us a message, shout them out. But my mind go to those obvious things, and I didn't feel like trying to find 5 other ones tonight because those are worth mentioning. Because you know what? Marriage is not necessarily espoused today as it once was, and it is God ordained to find who he has for you and then to be with them and to work through the issues. So we're going to celebrate the minimal things. We're going to celebrate the tiny things, which aren't that tiny at all, and not go digging for more until you want us to, until you share some of the more interesting things about your spouses. So thanks
Yeah,
for, yeah.
and remember, marriage isn't 50-50. It's 100-100.
Oh yeah.
Take it
100,
to the bank.
100. We're adding ourselves together to make a superhuman.
Boom.
I never heard that before.
I
So,
just made it up.
okay. I was like, where did you pull this from? I have no idea.
Just pulled it from
Twain shall
midair.
be one flesh. Is that what we're talking about here? I don't.
That's it.
That's it.
1 +
I,
1 = 1.
I have no idea if our Christian administrator spotlight is married or not, but it's going out to Scott Guagliardo, which absolutely is the best name of a Christian school administrator we've ever had the opportunity to spotlight. And he is out there in Venture Christian School in
Los Gatos.
in Los Gatos, California. This is our final Venture Christian School administrator. We have talked about Christopher Rutz, who's the head of school, Kristen Ferry, the elementary principal, and now the junior high principal, Mr. Scott Guagliardo. So we're happy to walk through the Venture Christian School family, and I'm going to pray for you tonight, Scott. Father in heaven, we are so thankful for Jenny and for Andrea, our own spouses, and I'm sure that those who are listening insert their own spouses' names here. May we be more appreciative of them on this day particularly. Might we make time to be with them in a special way on the 26th of January, if at all possible, or remember this date for a future time together and evidence to them why we are thankful for them and specifically why we're thankful for them in the roles that we hold and in the roles that they hold in the supportive realm to our professional life and hopefully us to them as well. Lord, you are so good to us, and I thank you for Venture Christian out there and what so obviously they are doing well for you and for all these administrators, and tonight, of course, for Scott. I ask that his family, his home be blessed on this National Spouses Day. We love you. Amen. Well, folks, we are closing in on our 100th subscriber to YouTube. Please make sure if you haven't dropped a YouTube subscription that you have soon. We're seeing our Spotify and our Apple podcast follows continue to grow. What a blessing. I hear that Graylink's going to be shouting us out here soon, which we could not have asked for anything more than that. What a wonderful partnership there. And with the Herzog Foundation, I've seen us at the top of their recent letters going out, recommending their podcast, or even the line brought to you by the Christian Principles Podcast. What an absolute blessing with the partners that we have. We couldn't be more thrilled. Yeah. But besides all that, folks, well, Andrea, I love you.
Ditto, Jenny.
Ditto, Jenny. I shouldn't have paused for that. I should have just said, Jenny, we love you too, or something. I don't know. All right. Thanks for growing with us today.
We want to thank you for listening. We're honored that you spend this time with us each week. Our heart is to bring you practical conversations and resources that really serve you as a Christian school leader. One of the best ways you can help us spread the word is by leaving us a review and sharing the podcast with other Christian school principals you're connected with. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation and share any posts that resonate with you. Every share makes a difference in helping more leaders find encouragement and practical tools. And remember, the podcast is just one way we help. We also love serving schools through speaking and workshops. Our keynotes and sessions are designed to give you actionable strategies you can take back to your team and implement right away. If you'd like more details, just send us an email at info@christianprinciplespodcast.com. We'd love to connect. Until next time, thanks for joining us on the Christian Principles Podcast.